The knock at the human's door. Night was cold. Strong winds moved through the broken metal streets of the ruined colony. Most homes were empty, abandoned after the last human raid. Silence ruled the land, except for the soft sound of small feet running in the dark. A little alien girl, no older than 6, held her mother's hand tightly. Her skin was light blue, and her eyes glowed softly in the dark. Her mother looked weak, tired, her steps slow and heavy. They had walked for hours. Their clothes were torn. They were hungry. They were afraid. The girl looked up at the tall house in front of them. It was still standing, unlike the others. A small yellow light shined through the window. "Mama," the girl whispered. "Someone's inside." The mother nodded slowly, but did not speak. She was shaking, not just from the cold, but from fear. The little girl let go of her hand and stepped forward. Her tiny fist knocked on the metal door 3 times. Inside the house, Jacob heard it. He was human, a mechanic. He lived alone. Many said he was strange, because he didn't trust the other humans in the area. He liked silence. He liked machines more than people. He put down the tool he was holding and walked to the door. Another knock came, soft and slow. Jacob opened the door halfway. His eyes widened. Standing in front of him was a little alien girl. Behind her, a weak woman, her mother, stood silently, with her head down. They were both covered in dust and had no shoes. Before Jacob could say anything, the girl spoke in perfect English. "Please, sir, my mom will obey you. Just let us stay for tonight, please." Jacob stared at her. Her voice was soft but brave. Her big glowing eyes were full of sadness and hope. He looked at the mother. She didn't meet his eyes. She looked down at the ground like she was ready to be punished. "What's your name?" Jacob asked the girl. "Zuri," she said. "And my mom's name is Neela. Where's your home?" "Gone," Zuri whispered. "Humans burned it. They said we were useless." Jacob stepped aside and opened the door fully. "Come in," he said. Zuri helped her mother walk inside. The house was warm. There was a small fire going, and the smell of soup filled the air. Neela's eyes watered, not from the smoke but from surprise. "You can sit by the fire," Jacob said. "You look frozen." Neela dropped to her knees by the fire. Zuri stayed beside her. Jacob poured a bowl of soup and handed it to the child. "You both hungry?" Zuri nodded quickly. "Yes, thank you." He gave another bowl to Neela, but she didn't move. "She's scared," Zuri said softly. "Every human we met before, they only wanted one thing." Jacob didn't ask what that was. He already knew. He pulled over a chair and sat near them. He didn't speak for a few minutes, just watched. "I don't want anything from you," he finally said. "I'm not like the others." Zuri looked at him carefully. "Why are you helping us, then?" Jacob leaned back. "Because I've seen what they do to your kind, and I hate it." Neela slowly raised her head. Her eyes were soft gray. She looked at Jacob, for the first time. "Your kind," she whispered. Her voice was shaky and low. "I'm just tired of cruelty," Jacob said. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind howled. Zuri finished her soup quickly. She held the empty bowl like it was a treasure. Neela ate slower, her hands still shaking. "You can sleep here tonight, Jacob said. "You'll be safe." "And tomorrow?" Zuri asked. "Will you tell the guards?" Jacob shook his head. "I won't tell anyone." Neela whispered something in her alien tongue. Zuri translated. "She says thank you. She's scared, but she trusts you." Jacob nodded. "Get some rest." As the two lay near the fire, Jacob walked to his basement door. He opened it quietly and looked down the stairs. Hidden under a blanket was a large piece of alien tech, broken and dusty. He sighed. "Not tonight," he whispered. Then he closed the basement door. Behind him, Zuri's eyes opened. She had seen him, and her mother had seen. That something inside this human's house wasn't what it seemed. The night grew darker, but inside Jacob's home, something had changed. The knock at the door wasn't just a cry for help, it was the beginning of something much bigger. The price of shelter. The sun rose slowly over the broken roofs of the alien city. Smoke still hung in the air from the fire set by raiders the night before. Outside, the world was sharp, cold, and cruel. But inside Jacob's home, it was still. Zuri woke first. The little alien girl blinked and looked around. Her mother was asleep beside the fire, breathing slowly for the first time in days. Zuri smiled faintly, knowing her mother hadn't slept like that since they lost their village. She stood and looked around the house. There were no weapons on the wall, no flags, no signs of hatred, just books, old tools, and strange machines, half opened with wires sticking out. She walked carefully, her small feet making no sound. In the corner, Jacob was already awake. He sat by the window, holding a cup of something warm, staring at the empty streets. He didn't speak until he noticed her watching him. "You sleep okay?" he asked. Zuri nodded. "Yes, my mom too. Thank you. Really?" Jacob nodded once. "You're safe here." But Zuri's eyes were drawn again to the basement door, the one he had opened quietly the night before. She remembered the soft light, the hum of something alive below. But she said nothing. A few minutes later, Neela stirred. Her mother sat up slowly, her movements careful and uncertain. When she saw Jacob standing with a bowl of food, she tensed up. "It's just breakfast," Jacob said gently. "Eat. You need strength." Neela looked at Zuri, then took the bowl with both hands and bowed her head in thanks. But she didn't eat. Instead, she placed the bowl on the floor, got to her knees, and bowed low, her forehead touching the ground. Jacob stared in confusion. "What? What are you doing?" Zuri whispered. "It's how they show loyalty, submission. When someone gives shelter, especially a human, they think it must come at a price." Jacob sighed. "Get up, please." Neela didn't move. "I don't want anything from you," he said again, more firmly. Nay lifted her head. Her voice was quiet, barely a whisper. "Then why did you save us?" Jacob looked at her for a long moment. "Because I couldn't let you freeze out there. Because I'm not like the others." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't the full truth. He hadn't saved them just out of kindness. Deep inside, something had stirred when he looked into Zuri's eyes. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. A memory, a face, a promise he had once made long ago, before the wars. Before the walls between humans and aliens had been built with fire and hate. "Eat," he said quietly. "Both of you." They sat together in silence. The only sound was spoons scraping the bottom of bowls. Just as Neela began to relax, a loud bang echoed in the distance. Nella dropped her spoon. Zuri grabbed her hand instantly. Jacob stood and looked out the window. Down the street, 3 figures in black armor walked slowly from door to door. "Search patrol," he muttered. Zuri's single quotes S voice shook. "Are they looking for us?" Jacob didn't answer. He closed the curtain and turned to them. "You need to go to the basement. Now." Neela's eyes widened. Her body froze. "Trust me," Jacob said. "They won't check down there." He opened the basement door and guided them inside. The steps creaked as they walked down. Once inside, Neela gasped. The walls were filled with broken alien machines, glowing tubes, shattered crystal pieces, old, forbidden tech from before the war. Jacob looked at her. "I used to fix things, not just human tech, alien tech too," Neela whispered. "But this is from the old world? Your people banned it." Jacob nodded. "That's why it's hidden." Zuri stared at a tall black pillar in the corner, humming faintly. "What is that? A transmitter?" Jacob said softly. "One that can reach beyond the human grid, maybe even outside the system." Neela looked afraid. "You're trying to contact my people." Jacob shook his head. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to fix something I helped break. Before she could ask more, Jacob ran back up the stairs. Nala turned to her daughter. He's not normal, she said. He's not like the others. Zuri nodded. He's good. Above, Jacob answered the door. The soldiers didn't knock this time. They pushed it open and walked in, armored boots crushing his wooden floor. You live alone? One of them asked, his voice cold. Jacob nodded. Always have. We're looking for 2 escapees, a female and a child. The fear returns at midnight. Sun had long disappeared, and darkness returned to the skies above the ruined colony. Clouds gathered thickly, blocking even the moonlight. The silence of the night was heavy, broken only by the occasional whistle of wind through cracks in broken walls. Inside Jacob's house, the fire still burned gently. It was warmer than outside, but the air was filled with tension. Zuri lay close to her mother under a thick blanket. Jacob stayed seated near the window, waiting. He had barely slept since the soldiers came. Something wasn't right, and he could feel it in his bones. Zuri turned in her sleep. Her little hands grabbed at the blanket. A soft whimper escaped her lips. Jacob walked over and checked on her. Nightmare, he whispered, brushing her forehead gently. She stirred, but didn't wake. Beside her, Neela was silent, but her hands trembled. Her eyes were closed, but her face was tense. She was deep in some kind of dream or memory that held her tightly. Jacob sat back on his chair and tried to rest, but the events of the day haunted his mind. The knock, the plea, the soldiers, the transmitter. His hand drifted to the small switch in his pocket. It was the trigger for the alien device in the basement. One flick, and the signal would be sent. But once that signal went out, there would be no going back. He closed his eyes for a moment. Then came the scream, high, sharp, full of pain and fear. Jacob jumped up. Zuri was sitting upright, crying, her eyes wide with panic. They're taking her, she cried. Mama. Jacob rushed to her. Zuri. It's okay. You're safe. She's right here. But when he looked at Neela, she wasn't just dreaming. She was convulsing. Her body shook violently, and her mouth moved silently like she was trying to scream, but couldn't. Her skin turned a pale shade of gray. Her breathing was sharp and painful. Jacob bent over her, shaking her shoulders gently. Neela, wake up. Wake up. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, but they weren't her usual soft gray. They were glowing red. Zuri gasped and clung to Jacob. No, it's starting again. Jacob pulled back. What's happening to her? Zuri was crying now. They did something to her, a long time ago. Experiments, to control her, like a weapon. But it didn't work. She escaped. Jacob was frozen. They tried to program her. Zuri nodded. Sometimes, when she sleeps, it returns. The pain, the commands, the voice. Neela sat up straight now, her body stiff as stone. She looked at Jacob, but her expression was blank. Then she spoke, but not in her own voice. Return to the handlers. Return to the source. Destroy the threat. Jacob's blood ran cold. They implanted commands inside her, he said softly. A trigger. Zuri clung to him. They said, if she resisted, they'd make her destroy herself, and everything around her. Suddenly, Neela stood. Her body moved like a puppet, controlled by invisible strings. She began to walk toward the basement. Jacob jumped in front of her. Stop, Neela, fight it. But she didn't stop. She pushed past him like he was made of paper. Jacob turned to Zuri. Stay here. He ran after Neela as she descended the basement stairs. Inside the basement, the machines began to react to her presence. The transmitter blinked to lifelights dancing, humming loudly. Sparks flew. No, Jacob muttered. If she touches that thing while in this state, she reached the device. Her hands rose, Her fingers glowed with strange energy Jacob had only seen once before, during the alien wars. "Neela, listen to my voice," he shouted. "You are not a weapon. You are a mother. You are Zuri's mother." Her hands trembled, her head tilted slightly. "Zuri," she whispered, her voice returning. Jacob stepped forward slowly. "Yes, your daughter. She's upstairs. She's safe. She needs you." Neela's hands dropped. The lights on the transmitter faded. She fell to her knees. Jacob rushed to her side. She was breathing heavily, covered in sweat. Her eyes slowly returned to their soft gray glow. I felt them," she said weakly. "Their voices, their orders. Even now, they try to use me." Jacob helped her sit. "They built you to destroy, but you broke free. That means their control is weakening." Neela looked at him. Her eyes were full of pain, but also strength. "They'll come again," she said. "They always do." Jacob looked at the transmitter. "Then it's time we send the signal first." She nodded. Together, they walked upstairs. Zuri ran into her mother's arms, crying with relief. Jacob knelt beside them. "We don't have much time," he said. "Once that signal goes out, we bring war to our doorstep." Neela held Zuri tighter. "They already brought war," she said. "You're just giving us a chance to fight back." Jacob stood and walked to his workbench. He picked up a small tool and began making adjustments to the transmitter's control chip. Zuri looked up. "Will they answer?" Jacob glanced at her. "If there's anyone left out there who remembers who you are, yes, they will." The fire cracked behind them, and outside, in the shadows of the colony, a new patrol of hunters was moving toward their location. But this time, the house wouldn't be silent. The secret in the basement next morning came without peace. Neela sat near the fire, arms wrapped tightly around Zuri, as if afraid the girl would vanish. Her eyes were wide open, though she hadn't slept at all. Every time she blinked, she saw flashes, memories that weren't hers, voices she didn't want, commands that still whispered in her mind. Jacob didn't say much. He worked all night in the basement. Every few minutes, strange lights flickered from the gaps in the wooden floor. Quiet beeps echoed. The house felt alive with something powerful, something old. Zuri finally stood and walked down the stairs to check on him. She moved slowly, unsure what she would find. Jacob sat at the center of the basement, surrounded by broken machines. Wires wrapped around his arms like vines. In front of him, the black transmitter stood tall, humming quietly, almost like it was breathing. "You shouldn't be here," Jacob said, not turning around. Zuri stepped closer. "What is this place?" Jacob finally looked back at her. This is where I hide who I really am." Zuri tilted her head. "You said you were just a mechanic." Jacob smiled faintly. "I was. A long time ago. But I used to be part of the Human Research Division. I helped design the first control implants they put into your kind." Zuri froze. "You did that to Mama?" Jacob's face darkened. "No, not directly. But I helped build the system they used. I thought I was helping create peace. Instead, I helped build a cage." Zuri stepped closer. "Why did you stop?" Jacob looked at the transmitter. "Because one day, one of the test subjects cried while I was in the room. A little girl. She cried and said, 'Mama can't hear me anymore.'" He looked at Zuri now, his voice shaking. "That girl sounded just like you." Zuri's eyes filled with tears. Jacob continued. "I ran. I stole this transmitter and everything I could. Carrie, I've been hiding ever since fixing it, hoping one day I'd meet someone worth using it for." Zuri whispered. "And now, I think I found her." Behind them, Neela slowly entered the basement. Jacob stood up. She looked around, with wide eyes. Memories stirred. Her eyes landed on a large, cylindrical object, partly covered in a blanket. She pulled it back. This is one of the memory cores," she said. They used this to store false identities, to overwrite minds. Jacob nodded. I saved it to study how to undo what they did. Neela touched it gently. If we can unlock this, we might find the location of the other survivors, the ones who disappeared. Jacob looked stunned. You think they're still alive? I feel them, Neela said. In my sleep, in my blood, they whisper. Suddenly, the transmitter began to blink faster. Jacob rushed to it. The lights turned red. The humming rose. What's happening? Zuri asked, backing up. Jacob looked at the screen. We're receiving a trace signal. Neela stepped forward. From where? Jacob tapped buttons quickly. From off-world. It's weak, broken, but it's alien. They stood in silence, listening to the static. Then, through the crackling noise, a single voice spoke. Neela, daughter of light. Is it truly you? Zuri gasped. Naela. Single quotes as hands trembled. That voice, it's Elder Silan. He led the rebels. Before they were destroyed. Jacob's eyes lit up. He's alive. Neela leaned close to the mic. It's me. We're trapped on human territory. My child and I are hunted. The voice returned. We have a small fleet in hiding. We feared. All was lost. Hold your ground. We are coming. The signal cut out. Silence filled the basement once more. They're here. Zuri froze. Naela stood, pulled the armor onto her body, piece by piece, her face calm like a warrior returning from exile. Jacob met them at the top of the stairs. Whatever happens, he said, they won't take you again. Neela nodded. Outside, armored boots approached. This time, they would not kneel. This time, they would stand and fight. They found Hearth night outside was heavy with danger. The streetlights had long died, leaving only the soft glow of Jacob's fire, leaking through the cracks in the window. But beyond the silence, they could feel it. They were coming. Not the usual patrol this time. No random door checks. This was different. Zuri stood behind the curtain, peeking outside with wide eyes. They're not wearing black armor, she whispered. These ones are all red. Jacob's face grew dark. That's elite command. Bounty class. They're not here to question. They're here to take. Neela stood calmly beside him, her armor now fully activated. The alien plates shimmered with faint blue energy. Her eyes were steady. How did they find us so fast? Jacob muttered. The signal, Neela said quietly. It wasn't just heard by my people. The humans heard it too. Zuri backed away from the window. What do we do now? Jacob handed her a small device. You stay hidden. When I say run, you press this. It opens the tunnel under the floor. You're not coming, she asked. He smiled faintly. I'll try. But Zuri didn't like that answer. The door shook 3 loud bangs. Open up, a voice commanded. We know what you're hiding. Jacob didn't move. I count 5, he said softly. 1 sniper, 3 on foot, and a handler. Neela nodded. The handler is the most dangerous. They control the implants. If he speaks the code, he might reactivate me. Jacob reached into a drawer and pulled out a small ear device. Wear this, he said. It'll block the handler's signal. Neela hesitated. What if it doesn't work? Jacob looked her in the eyes. Then, I'll stop you. No matter what. She didn't ask what he meant. She just nodded. Another bang shook the door. Last warning. Surrender the alien, or we burn you alive. Jacob sighed. Time to greet the neighbors. He opened the door slowly. Red armored soldiers stood outside, their weapons raised. Behind them, a tall human in a long coat stepped forward, his face pale, his eyes sharp. Jacob Hale, the handler said. We thought you were dead. Jacob smiled. You always hoped. Turn her over, Neela, and the child. We know they're here. Jacob leaned against the doorframe. And if I say no, the handler's smile vanished. Then we level the house. Inside, Neela moved to the hallway. She spoke clearly. I'm here. Let the child go, and I'll come quietly. Jacob's Heart dropped. Neela, no. But she ignored him. She stepped into the open. The soldiers raised their rifles. Lower your weapons, the handler said. She's coded. She won't fight. Neela's armor lit up. Not anymore. Before they could react, she moved like lightning. Her hands swung out, releasing a pulse of blue energy that threw the front 3 soldiers into the air. Jacob slammed the door shut. Zuri, now. Zuri hit the button. The floor near the fire cracked open, revealing a hidden tunnel. She slid inside, the door closing behind her just as a blast shook the house. Outside, Neela fought like a storm. Her body moved with grace and power, each strike silent and precise. The red-armored men tried to fight back, but their bullets bounced off her shield. Jacob grabbed a modified weapon from under his workbench. He charged into the street beside her. The handler stood back, pulling out a silver control rod. He pressed a button. NALA. Froze mid-step. Jacob's eyes widened. No. Her body trembled. Her eyes began to glow red again. The handler smirked. You can't fight what you are. Neela fell to her knees, but Jacob ran forward and tackled the handler to the ground. The rod flew out of his hands. They fought hand to hand, rolling in the dirt. Jacob punched, kicked, clawed until finally he slammed the handler's head into the ground and knocked him unconscious. Neela stood up, breathing hard. The red glow in her eyes faded. She looked at Jacob with pure terror. I almost lost myself. Jacob stood slowly, holding his side where a blade had cut him. But you didn't. Sirens echoed in the distance. Reinforcements. We can't stay, Jacob said. Where's Zuri? Neela activated her communicator. Zuri, are you safe? Zuri's voice came through, small but steady. Yes, I'm at the safe point, but I see more ships. Mama, they're coming fast. Jacob looked at the sky. Lights. Dozens of them. We need to go. Now, he said. They ran toward the tunnel entrance hidden behind the garden wall. Neela turned back one last time, seeing the house burning. The home that gave her and her daughter a chance. Jacob put a hand on her shoulder. It's just wood. She nodded and followed him into the tunnel, as the flames rose behind them. The stars above began to shift. A new fleet approached, but not human, not hostile, not anymore. Neela smiled. They answered. She whispered, and the war had just begun. The Machine Speaks tunnel beneath Jacob's burning house stretched far beneath the city ruins. It was cold, damp, and silent, except for the distant sounds of war above. Every now and then, the ground shook from an explosion. Dust fell from the ceiling, but the 3 figures in the tunnel didn't stop moving. Jacob held a small flashlight as he guided Neela and Zuri through the winding path. Zuri walked quietly beside her mother, holding her hand tightly. Her small fingers trembled. Mama, she whispered, will they follow us down here? Neela shook her head softly. No, sweetheart, not this time. We're going deeper than they know. Jacob looked back, just a little further. Finally, they reached a large steel door. Jacob pressed a code, and it opened slowly with a hiss. Inside was a hidden room, an old war shelter built before the conflict had even begun. It was filled with ancient tech, strange devices, and at its heart the machine. The black alien transmitter stood in the center, now humming louder than ever. Strange blue lights flickered across its smooth surface, like it was waking from a long sleep. Naela stepped forward, eyes locked on the device. It's ready. Jacob nodded. I fine-tuned the receiver. The moment we activate it again, it speaks, not just to one, but to many. Zuri looked confused. Many. Jacob knelt beside her. Yes, fleets, hidden colonies, the broken survivors who escaped during the early raids. If they're still out there, this will find them. Neela placed her hand gently on the machine's panel. Do it. Jacob hesitated for just a moment, then pressed the final sequence. The room dimmed. A low, rising sound filled the air like a heartbeat. awakening after years of silence. Then the transmitter spoke. Identity confirmed. Neela, of the second bloodline. Signal accepted. Galactic channel engaged. Static followed. Then, Neela. This is command node Kolari. Is it truly you? Neela gasped. Yes, I'm alive. With my daughter. We're being hunted. Humans are close behind. I need support. There was a long pause. Then came a second voice, stronger, more commanding. We have waited years to hear your voice again. Your signal has been picked up by multiple outposts. Our scattered fleets are aligning. Akab's eyes widened. They're answering. Reinforcements will arrive within one solar turn. Hold the beacon online. You are not alone anymore. Neela lowered her hand, tears in her eyes. They're coming. Zuri jumped into her arms. They heard us. Mama, they're really coming. Jacob stood silently, overwhelmed by what they had just done. But his joy was cut short when a red light flashed on a side monitor. Motion detected. Inbound human signal. Ground level breach. Jacob's single quotes as heart sank. They found us. Neela turned. Quickly. How? Jacob checked the screen. They tracked the energy spike. We were too loud, too fast. Zuri trembled again. Will they take Mama? Neela hugged her tight. No, not this time. Jacob moved to a nearby control panel and flipped a switch. Heavy metal plates began sliding over the doorways. We can hold them for a while, but once they breach that top hatch, we need to choose. Neela looked at him. Choose. Jacob turned to her, eyes serious. There's another function in the machine. A burst call. One that draws all nearby alien frequencies, but also sends a burn pulse. It'll knock out every tracker and implant in a wide range, including the one inside you. Neela looked stunned. But it'll kill the signal. It'll make me invisible to my people again. Not forever, Jacob said. Just until they're close enough to find us with their own eyes. Zuri shook her head. But what if they don't find us in time? Neela looked at her daughter, then at Jacob. Do it. Jacob opened the interface. Naela, stood beside the machine again. She closed her eyes. For years, she said, they used me as a weapon. They tried to make me forget my name, my child, my truth. But now, I speak again. She pressed her palm firmly onto the beacon core. Send it. Jacob hit the burst. The machine roared to life. Blue lightning shot through the walls. The shelter trembled. A pulse of alien light burst upward through the ceiling, shooting straight into the sky. Above the city, like a signal fire from the stars, and then silence. The machine powered down, the room dimmed. Jacob fell back, coughing. It's done. Neela collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. I can't feel it anymore. The control, the voices, they're gone. Jacob crawled toward her. You're free. Zuri ran into her mother's arms, crying with relief. But the monitors blinked red again. Human breach imminent. 1 minute. Jacob stood and looked at the others. You two go down the emergency shaft. It leads to the edge of the forest. I'll stall them. Neela grabbed his arm. You've done enough. Jacob smiled. Not yet. Zuri hugged him tightly. Come back, please. Jacob nodded. I'll try. They ran toward the exit tunnel. Just as the ceiling above cracked, sunlight poured through, and figures dropped, unarmed, armored, and dangerous. Jacob stood in front of the beacon, with nothing but a wrench in his hand. You're too late, he said with a grin. The lead soldier aimed. Where are the aliens? Jacob shrugged. Everywhere. The soldier fired. But the screen behind Jacob lit up again. Incoming alien fleet detected. Atmospheric entry in 10-9-8. Jacob laughed through the pain as the humans looked up in panic. Outside, the sky had begun to burn, and the war for Neela's freedom was no longer just her own. The human who changed everything, the sky above the ruined colony, had turned from darkness to flame. Clouds parted like torn fabric as alien ships broke through the atmosphere, sharp and alive with light. The ships didn't make sound like human ones. Instead, they moved like ghosts, silent and graceful, but filled with purpose. From the forest edge, Zuri stared upward with wide, teary eyes. "Mama, look." Nayla stood beside her daughter, her body still weak from the energy burst that had freed her. Her armor was cracked, her hands trembled, but her spirit stood tall. A massive ship hovered above the mountains, blocking the sun. Around it, smaller crafts began to land in the open fields, glowing symbols on their sides blinking in soft alien blue. "They came," Zuri whispered. "They really came." Neela nodded slowly. "Our people didn't forget us." But even as the fleet arrived, her eyes stayed locked on the burning city in the distance, on the smoke rising from Jacob's house, and on the knowledge that he was still back there. "We have to go back," Neela said, but Zuri began, fear rising in her throat. "He stayed behind for us. For you. For me. I won't leave him." Before Zuri could speak, one of the alien ships landed nearby with a low hum. A ramp extended. From it stepped 3 tall alien figures, dressed in royal battle robes. One of them, an older woman with silver lines across her face, stepped forward. "Neela," the elder said, "you survived." Neela bowed her head. "Not alone. We saw the signal. The humans will scatter now that we're here. It is time to retreat and rebuild." Neela looked up, fire in her eyes. "Then help me get him back." The elder hesitated. "A human, yes," Neela said. "The one who gave me my voice again? Who protected my daughter like she was his own? Who stood between me and the ones who broke me?" The elder nodded slowly, prepared the recovery teams. Meanwhile, inside the shattered remains of Jacob's bunker, dust choked the air. Concrete had fallen from the ceiling. Flames licked the walls. Broken equipment sparked in corners. Jacob lay on his side, blood on his forehead. His vision was blurry, and his body ached in every direction. But he was alive, barely human. Soldiers were gone, either scattered by the beacon's power or taken down by the tremor when the alien ships entered the atmosphere. Jacob tried to move, but collapsed with a grunt. "Worth it," he whispered. Then he heard footsteps. Not heavy boots, not human, soft, precise, graceful. The ceiling above cracked open, wider, and light poured in. A silhouette appeared. "Jacob Hale," a voice called. "Depends who's asking." Jacob coughed. The figure dropped down, an alien soldier in a blue-gold suit. Behind him, another followed. "We're here for you," the soldier said, on Neela's request. Jacob blinked. "She made it." The soldier nodded. "She's waiting." Jacob tried to smile, but it hurt too much. They lifted him carefully, wrapping him in a support brace. As they carried him up the tunnel, Jacob felt the fresh air return to his lungs, and above he saw the ships, hundreds of them, hovering over the land. "You called an army," Jacob whispered. "No," said the alien soldier. "You called hope." At the edge of the field, Neela stood beside Zuri as the med ship landed. The moment the ramp opened, Zuri ran forward. "Jacob." He looked up, smiling weakly. "You stayed out of trouble, kid." She nodded with tears in her eyes. We waited. Neela stepped forward as the soldiers helped Jacob down. He looked at her with disbelief. "You're okay?" She nodded. "You kept your promise." Jacob laughed softly. 1 out of 10's not bad. Neela knelt beside him. "You didn't just save us. You woke something inside me I thought was gone forever." Jacob raised a brow. "What was that?" "Belief," she said. Zuri hugged both of them, tears falling. Above, the alien fleet sent out healing drones and peace signals to the nearby human forces. The war wasn't over, but a new story had begun. A story not of control, but of trust. Not of chains, but of choice. Not of fear, but of family. Jacob recovered slowly over the next few weeks aboard the alien flagship. He walked through their floating cities, learned their customs, and met others like Nilathos, once broken by war but now rising again. Naela returned to her people as a leader, but she never forgot the man who helped her stand tall again. Months